it's always interesting too. I'm trying to get handwriting samples from everybody, and then everybody says, well, who's that? They all look the same, but because back then they were, I think, one way. Yeah. So the handwriting is an extra bonus. You're right. Thank you.
We do have my mother's old recipes. There's 6 kids in my family, and we all value them very highly. And there was a big hunt recently to find out where she got her pumpkin pie recipe from. And everyone was trying to guess it was Julia Child or this or that, but it turned out to be, I believe, gourmet. But my siblings were buying old cookbooks off of eBay and things to try to figure it out. So the flavors do make a big difference in people's lives and the smells. So.
I have a separate, you brought up handwriting, and I have a journal that's written in Pitman shorthand, which I don't read. It's my mother's, and I have her book from the 60s, which is like an educational book for pitmen, shorthand. But I was wondering if anyone knows anyone or any resources and it's all handwritten, so it wouldn't be like I wouldn't be able to type it into a computer. I could probably scan it. But does anyone have any resources for pitman shorthand translators?
So that's just a type of shorthand?
Right. It's a certain style, I guess, like just different symbols. And she went to Jones Commercial School in Chicago. So I think that was something in the 60s that was taught as for secretaries and people going into the business world. And so these are some journals that she wrote, I think because she didn't want my father to read them. So they're probably pretty good. But I
can't. And I remember having a big, huge, thick book on how to do it, but I don't know anybody that does it anymore.
Yeah, okay. And it was one of the original type of shorthand that was taught to stenographers, secretaries, and whatnot. But I took one, not that, but I took what was it called? It was back in the 80s, a variation, let's put it that way, it was a type of shorthand, but it wasn't quite totally all shorthand. But the thing that they usually do, it's all well and good, but they tell you usually to transcribe it almost immediately after you've taken your notes, because a lot can, be lost. But I'm sure someone would be able. I wish I could think of the name. I belong to several genealogy groups on Facebook. Okay. And every so often a question like that will come through. And the point is, it's a users group. And so you get such variety. I've had a lot of success and enjoyment with these Facebook genealogy groups. Because
random acts of genealogical kindness.
I'm sorry. What?
Random acts of genealogy.
Yes. Yeah. Random acts.
This is a group that's been in existence before there was Facebook.
Correct. And
literally by mail.
Right. And they're all over the world. I mean, you can get Scottish groups of the random acts. That's one of the primary ones.
There's some translations for genealogy.
I'm sorry, what?
Some Facebook groups for translations.
Yes. Yeah. Because I know that shorthand, that Pittman thing has come up once or twice. I didn't pay attention because, it wasn't for me, the topic, but so I can't tell you, but if you ever join any of those groups, and they're all free, they're Facebook groups, and you can just throw the question out there. Most will want you to join, which is fine, because they kind of try to weed out the trollers and whatnot that happen there. But, after that, you can just throw your questions. I've thrown oddball questions out there, and I've had some luck, and others, no, that's not my branch. Kind of a thing.
They can't help you. Usually somebody can pass you on to another group that
sure.
And I haven't searched, but have you tried putting Pittman in to Facebook search? There might be a group for people that still do it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah,
There's a group for everything.
yeah. That genealogy just ask is another worthwhile Facebook group. I've tried a lot of them and I've just dismissed a bunch of them because they're, just not really relevant. But there's some really good ones out there. And genealogy just ask is another one that you could maybe try.
Okay, great.
That's a
And just on, go ahead. Sorry, Laura.
Well, I just say that's a fascinating mystery you have there.
Yeah, and I think that my older sister is probably interested in it, but not interested enough to. I mean, my mom died in October, so this was one of the things that I found in her closet. And then my other sister unknowingly found the Pittman book, the teaching manual, and she didn't know about the journal. So in the same closet, or somehow in the same house. So hopefully I'll be able to find someone at least that's willing to translate. But I was wondering, I haven't even cracked open the book because I'm not very good with languages, but if it's symbols, is it like sounds, which is why you should transcribe it immediately? Or is it actually like an alphabet? Because it looks a lot like, just little jerks of the pencil.
I know there are certain symbols that refer to a word.
Okay.
And like in this shortened version I took, it was simply, I'm going the wrong direction, but you would be a long line with an S at the end. And that meant this.
Oh.
And a long line by itself with nothing on it meant the. If you were going to write the word R, you just put an R. So it wasn't exactly, that's why it wasn't quite like Pittman, which is all symbols. This is maybe combination of both. Some were symbols and some aren't. So
Okay.
It could be a word or a sound. It's mostly a abbreviation for a word, if you will. Once in a while, they use them for just individual letters.
Okay.
Well, I kind of in a way like what the kids do on, kids, all of us, I guess, on Facebook or whatnot. But, how are you doing? Are and then you, kind of a thing. So it's something along those lines.
Okay.
Usually, but I would just be hot on the trail. That's like a treasure, a mystery hunt for me. I've got to know what's in there.
Well, and I thought about that, but I've had a few relatives die over the last couple of years. My dad died in 2016. My uncle, his brother, died in 2020, and my mom died in 2021. So I'm racing just to get the immediate relatives to recognize pictures and put some of that together. But it's on my list. It's just that I've moved from my father immigrating from Yugoslavia. I've kind of put that on hold, and I've been working on my mom's father's Ewart side, which is where the glass comes in. And I know that someone else had said 2 calls ago that you can really get spread out, and you have to remember, the web can get just bigger and bigger. But I'm really concerned with there are 4 cousins of my mom's left from various sides of her family, and I'm trying to at least engage with them a little bit over email with photographs and say, okay, can you, and it's so far, I'm the one that has, pictures that they're like, who's that? I'm like, well, I was hoping you could tell me who that was, so this picture that I found with Marty Glass was just so exciting because nobody that's alive could tell me what he looked like. And the oldest relative that might have met him, my mom's aunt Lois, she has macular degeneration. So she can't look at photographs the same way and see details. I don't know. Her daughter is still alive, and her daughter has said she will try to share on her phone some of the stuff that I sent her. But it's just that's been the most frustrating thing, is that the people who would recognize these photos, identify the people in photographs are gone, or they're not able to do so. So that's why Pittman has been put aside since October when I first discovered it. But yes, it is something I'm just like, oh my goodness.
It could be really good.
It could. It really could. It really could shed some light on the stuff. My mom, she didn't care for genealogy, and I think part of it is because I've uncovered some things that she were sworn to secrecy, and that she didn't want anyone to know about.
Did she ever admit to it after you told her what?
Yes. So I have a half brother. My father was married before my mother, and I think during their 7-year courtship, she found out about this son. And it may have been that they had already invested in buying a house together, that she decided to go through with it. It may be that because she only dated my dad and one guy she went to prom with, and that was it. So her choices were really slim.
Yeah.
But so far, now that she's gone, I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, people get divorced and things happen, but and Paul called me, my half brother called me. That's how I found out who he was, because he cold called me in 2005.
Well, then he knew about
us.
you.
Yes. My father was, when I started doing genealogy, I did the math of when he was born and when my parents started dating. And there was also a tragedy on my mom's side the year she started seeing my father in 1964. And so I think all of those things really fed into her dislike of talking about her past, her inability to really, she projected onto me who I should be a lot, which made me push back. And now that I've discovered these things, it's like, you said I should go this route, but you actually did this thing. It would have been nice to know that you are human, more human.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about the scandal or trying to catch somebody in something. It's more about how I felt growing up, or how I had to fight for the path I wanted to go. And it would have been a little easier knowing that my parents made mistakes, or that they were in relationships that didn't work. And I think his mother had a really hard time with my dad, and I think it was violent, but my dad never admitted to hitting her. He didn't hit us, but he emotionally was abusive. And so it's, the patterns were there, but I think he somewhat learned different lessons from how Paul got out at age 4. But when after my parents divorced, and then my dad died in 2016, Paul kind of came back into the picture, and it really caused a lot of problems with my sisters and my mom. And for me, just the moral question of what is Paul entitled to? This is his father, even though it wasn't his choice to leave, but he should at least know my dad died, like that. My mom crafted that email so that it would be written the way she felt it was appropriate to write it about my dad dying. It was just those kinds of things where there was a lot of control put out there. And I don't mean to dominate the call. I realize I've gone on a tangent from the Pittman. We'll just leave it there. But, yes, the Pittman handwriting shorthand is something I'm really interested in figuring out, but it's not an urgent thing at this time.
Yeah. Well, I think we all find something we want to know more about. And sometimes I find it so hard because I look at things through my eyes and the morals and the standards and whatnot of today. And I try so hard to put myself in their age group. Many times they knew no better at the time, and so on. So I try not to judge. And but I find it absolutely fascinating, some of the societal changes, because in my family too, especially on one side, there were just certain people that I know damn well were in that family. And we don't talk about that, and the struggle to try to, first of all, it just stirs me on to try to find out more about this person that no one wants to talk about. But they were a member and they fit. But in those days, I guess if it wasn't socially correct or whatnot, they just didn't talk about it. And a lot of times personality types too. I mean, we still know people who are very open and people very reserved who don't discuss much of anything about when you're dealing with feelings or something like that. So it's always a struggle, but there's always more to the story. And I'm just curious enough by nature. I just want to know. And I get very frustrated when I can't find out what I want to know.
So that brings up a question. Has anyone gotten a hostile experience from a relative? Like, why do you need to know this stuff? Why are you asking me all of this? What are you going to do with this information? Or am I the only one? I mean, maybe I'm the only one that gets that.
I'm going to put it online and spread it all over the world,
I mean, I wouldn't want to, it's like, part of it is, to me, it's understanding the struggles of my ancestors. I mean, I haven't even gotten, the people I'm asking questions about, I have actual images, or they're related to someone I have an image of. They're not so abstract that it's something I did through DNA or, and so to me, I'm surprised that people don't want to know. And I'm just wondering if anyone else has kind of experienced that, a hostile, or I'll write down stuff because I'm trying to absorb as much as I can. If I can't record a conversation, I'll take notes because I'm sure I'm not remembering everything from that call or whatever. And I just was wondering if anyone else has had that kind of experience and how they've handled it.
I haven't, the hostility aspect. It is just, there might be one or two others who don't roll their eyes anytime I, bring something up, just the not interest. And I just want to say, why aren't you interested? Why don't you want to know? But they just, I just can't imagine going through life without that, but whatever. But no, not hostility. I haven't found that. There was one other individual who proclaimed himself to be, I don't know what, the historian of the family or the something, whatever. Hasn't done diddly, didn't begin to do diddly, but he just wanted to be known that way. So it was kind of like pulling teeth to get any artifacts or letters or anything that he may have had, which he didn't have a lot as it turned out. But it was just, I go, come on, let's just, but other than that, no real hostility, just more eyeball rolling and lack of total interest in the whole topic.
An article recently I think one of the Green Bay news sites where a woman recently found her family through DNA. She was left in a car and was apparently abandoned as a baby. And through DNA, she was able to find who her mother was. Her mother wants nothing to do with her, but her father does. And I actually heard this same story some years ago. A woman from Australia came and tracked her mother down to this area, and the mother wanted nothing to do with her, which is very sad, as you were saying. But besides that, there's stories like someone found out her grandfather was not the grandfather she thought she had.
Sure.
And another person found out his father was not his father. So there's all sorts of things going on these days. And I think the structure of society in the past had certain rules, and you can't keep to those rules anymore. Truth comes out.
Charlene, I think Charlene had something.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that same group, that random acts of genealogical kind of stuff. Facebook. I haven't had any issues with people, but I've read some of the posts on there about people that have been just completely turned away, and just the opposite too. But yeah, there's a lot of it where people still to this day, I mean, get over it, people. It's not that big of a deal. It really isn't that big of a deal.
I had almost the opposite case. When I first started this, which was about 12, 15 years ago, I was working on my mother's family because I knew the least about her ancestors of all of my ancestors. And so I had got an ancestry tree up and all that and put on there what I knew. And then a woman contacted me and through the ancestry, and we exchanged emails, and she said that she knew all about my family and she had all this information, and she was wondering what I had. And so I gave it to her, and then I went, and I said, what do you know about these people? And she kind of hauled around, and finally she just said, I'm not going to pass on any information to you. Goodbye. Okay.
Yeah.
All she wanted was to know whether I had anything she didn't have.
Yeah, I learned that way too. Well, most on these Facebook groups, I've decided I just put very little. Oh, I'm related to, I don't know, Joe and Susie Smith of Savannah, and let it go at that, because see what the other person comes up with, if there's a connection, before telling your all and you find out it's just people, I don't know, nosing around, or they don't want to do the research. That's the thing I found the most. They don't want to do any research. And I think that's why you see so much copying of trees, family trees.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you look on them and there's 0 sources, or maybe they might list ancestry family trees or something. Well, you know, I need more resources and records to bother with that. But I don't know why they do it. Same thing on Find a Grave. I mean, there's some people that just want to say that they've got, you know, 1,000 memorials, and they're not related. They haven't done a darn thing, you know, to it, to just take other people's information. So
I made a mistake, the same family. I made a mistake of putting a picture of my mother's mother, my grandmother, on the internet, you know, as an icon on Ancestry.
mhm.
And I knew nobody else had this picture. And sure enough, about, you know, a month or so later, I'm going through Ancestry. There it is, right on.
Oh,
somebody-
yeah. Yeah.
Yes, of course. You know, and they didn't even give me credit for it. You know, they just had it on there,
Yeah.
and obviously they copied it.
You
to
know,
mine.
actually, some of the advice is to try to, and you can do that, watermark your photos
Yeah.
for the credit aspect. But I don't know. I just I actually look at the family trees just for see if I can glean any hints type of
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
I do too. Anything
That's
I find on Ancestry or Family Search, I figure anybody else can find it. Okay,
Right.
'cause it's
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah.
So if the source, you know, I'll use it, put it as source, but I have another tree, which is my private tree off to
Yeah.
the side. And I happen to use Family Tree Maker, which allows me to download from you know, from Ancestry and also from Family Tree.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
Well, you
from
know,
Family-
talking about ancestry, they just put, you know, how they, the same as Family Search, they periodically let you know that they put new records in their collection and so on. So Ancestry had one of Virginia marriage registers, 1853 to 1935. Well, that was the time period they had not had in the past. So I nosed around in it. And I did find my great-great-grandfather. I didn't get a whole lot of info that I hadn't been able to find elsewhere, except for 2 things: the actual date of marriage, which was 20th of June, 1858, but the person performing the ceremony, which I'd never found before, and it was a W.A. Bynham, who it turned out to be a William A. But the point was he was a Baptist minister. So I go, wait a minute, we're all Episcopals or Methodist Episcopals. So I thought. So I don't know. I've got a new clue, a new path to go. So now I'm trying to find marriage records or church records or marriage records of the Baptist churches in my area in Virginia, and I haven't been successful yet. But it was just that one little line, the guy's name, and he was a Baptist, that,
Yeah.
you know, now I've got another clue. I can go somewhere. So you
Sometimes,
always find something.
I don't know about in Virginia, of course, that's much older, but here in Wisconsin, some of the early religious groups didn't have many people around the area, so they combined
Mhm.
service.
Yeah, there is a possibility. And it could very well be that the woman he married, who I thought was Methodist or Episcopal, Church of England at that time, whatever, it could very well be a Baptist. Or perhaps there, in many cases that far back, there aren't established churches, and there might be a minister from some faith who comes in, I don't know,
Yeah.
once a month or something like that. So he just takes care of the legalities of it, might not have anything to do, but at least it gives me another place to do, because that far back, I just am stymied at the records that are lacking. And of course, in Virginia, many of it was a big catastrophe in the war, the Revolutionary War, and then the War of 1812, where there was so many burning by the Brits, and so many churches and whatnot lost their records, public establishments. So it's very hard, difficult to find records back that far. So I can't get even my family who came to Virginia, I can't get back to where in England, they came initially. I can't cross the pond, as they say, which was in Scotland and England. So kind of hit or miss there. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get back, but somewhere. And problem is too, when they have such a simple name, Gray and Johnson. I mean, oh, good Lord. You know.
DNA might give you a little hint too.
Yeah,
Have you
I
tried-
should. I've neglected. I haven't done it yet.
There's a specific English one called Living DNA. It's English, and they try to
Oh.
break down the country into more districts and ancestry.
mhm,
Look
mhm.
into that one.
Living DNA. Okay.
Question, a certificate question. So a couple years ago, my children got me the name of the company was Forever Note, and they interviewed you, and they would write a book, and you could get a printed book and an online book. And the company went out of business. Literally, after I had done my final edit of the book, and sent it back to them to be printed, I never heard from them again. I started, and the website was gone, everything. So I'm looking for a printer in today that that would be able to print this. And I think there's a few, like DC printing. Well, there's like 2 or 3 different printers. Has anyone used any printer here in Sturgeon Bay that that had good luck with, that you would recommend?
Any, what printers did you say?
Printers, yeah, printing services.
You're saying it's a really large document. Is that what you're saying? Like it's,
No, it's not. It's a small book. It's got lots of pictures, but I can't remember the exact number of pages. Maybe like 20, 30 pages.
so it's a bound book and you're looking for
It
someone to
would have
replicate
been,
it?
Yeah, it would have been had they printed it. All I have is the last edit that I did.
Oh, at least you got that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I see there's like a place called FL's Banners, DC Printing, PIP Marketing,
Yeah, I don't know. how-
Dynatech.
Couldn't you just go to, oh, am I, yeah, I'm on, like Office Depot? I mean, I'm almost ready to start printing. So this is just investigative reporting. I don't have any actual documentation on it, but, you know, I've looked into Office Depot or Office Max. I don't know what's near you, you know, and it's whatever cents per color page and whatever cents per, and then you have some options. I think it starts with like spiral or that crab claw kind is like an additional $4. But if you want something like a glue bound or something else, it's like an extra $75 or whatever, you know, based on what you get. I mean, but that's as far as I've got, just investigating. But that's the most budget friendly option I've found.
I think the comb, I think it's called a comb binding, and it looks like it's plastic, and there are these pieces, and then there's a top to it. So it wraps through each hole like a spiral.
Yeah, I find the spiral, we printed one of the family cookbooks, and I find the spiral is more helpful because it doesn't seem as breakable as that. And you also can flip it completely back, you know, for a cookbook, which is especially helpful. But I'm just saying, you know, I don't know what you have.
I would check out possibly the PIP printer, or what am I saying? Door County Printing on 4th and between Louisiana and Kentucky on 4th, next to the Marathon gas station. You're cutting out, Charlie. We can't hear you.
DC Printing on 130 North 4th Avenue.
I think you said, yeah, you said DC Printing. We can't hear you very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, on 4th Avenue, DC Printing. They do an awful lot of work for the various companies to putting brochures and stuff together. So they can probably, you could try them. I haven't tried the other 2 places.
Well, we are running up on an hour, so I think we're gonna have to cut it the end now, but there's been a really lot of interesting discussion here today. Unfortunately, I forgot to turn on the recording until halfway through.
That's why it popped up on my screen partway through.
Wow, it's really interesting subjects. So I guess we'll see you next month.
Okay,
Are we doing this 2 times a month or is it once a month on the first Thursday?
Brought a
Okay.
show and tell, and I didn't even get to show you all the mysterious things in here.
We'll save it for next time.
Yeah,
Let's see.
okay, is it,
When is the 4th? Wait a minute, way before we knock off. Are we meeting at
I think it's the 7th or. no,
7th? Okay.
Yeah, 7th next month.
Yeah, 7th next month.
so it is once a month. Lori asked if it's once a month, or now we're going to twice. No?
And Lori,
The
you have
website,
email.
website says twice a month.
Yeah, the Door County Library website has 2 times a month on the info
Really?
before the Zoom link. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I asked. But the
Yeah.
first one I attended, I thought it was
In the
monthly.
beginning, and then I guess I missed it. I'll have to double check that. Thank you for letting me know.
Sure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it'll be the 7th of July then at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay.
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 Well, bye, everybody. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.